Good evening and welcome to Monday's edition of the State of Scottish Football. Struan is taking a week off, which is surprising given Hibs won at the weekend. But joining me tonight is Dave and Regan. Dave, how are you?
Aye, very well. I need to calm down a bit because I was winding up town courts this afternoon, so I very much need to calm down and the heater's on. So I'll be fine with you two guys. You'll just warm up very much.
Yeah, you've got the log fire behind you and the grand piano for later. But Regan, how are you doing? You must have been buoyed by the win yesterday.
Glenn, thank you for having me on. Yeah, it was a great day at Celtic Park yesterday. I thought Celtic played very well.
Yeah, and I suppose that's where we'll start the show tonight, is Celtic's 2-1 win over struggling Aberdeen. I can say that, being an Aberdeen fan. No, you can't, Regan. But how important was that win, Regan, for Celtic, given the disappointment they experienced on Thursday night and crashing out of the Europa League, that they not only responded to that defeat, but also on the back of Rangers winning in the lunchtime kickoff, that Celtic matched that result?
Yeah, and I think it's very important because I spoke on the show on Thursday about Celtic playing a great brand of football under Ange Postecoglou, but he made the wrong changes for me. But in terms of yesterday, I think it's important that Celtic stay very close to Rangers because I expect it to be a very close game against Jack Ross's side for Rangers on Wednesday night, I think it is. Mm-hmm. So it was very important that Celtic can stay very close, and you definitely seen the passion from McGregor and the Celtic players when they scored that second goal, Glenn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could feel the passion. Dave, obviously Aberdeen came into this game struggling with injuries and suspensions alike, and I think it was quite obvious in the first half. Not Diego Jota, he doesn't play for Celtic, although I wish Celtic fans might wish he did. But Jota having loads of success down Aberdeen's right against Jack Gurr, another impressive display from the Portuguese.
Yeah, and from an Aberdeen persuasion, I understand that you were not very happy with that partnership or that tussle up between Gurr and Jota. Because I mean, Jota in my book is probably one of, or indeed the best winger in the Premiership at this minute in time. Just his tricky, his tenacity of getting the ball, his ability to drive forward, and his ability to score goals. He's a very big player for that team, for that Celtic team just now. And that was shown yesterday, and it's been shown in recent domestic games for Celtic as well. So he was a big player, and he had another good game yesterday. And yeah, he played his part, but then I'd also question whether it was the right decision to start Jack Gurr. I'm thoroughly acknowledging the fact that Aberdeen have a lot of injuries right now. Ramsey and David Bates was back yesterday, but defensively in particular, there's a lot of injuries. But Dean Campbell was on the bench yesterday. I don't know what you think, Glenn, but I was a bit surprised by that.
Yeah, I don't think the decision to bench him was justified, but he's not an out and out left back, so maybe you'd be playing him even further out position at right back. So just kind of shows how stretched Aberdeen are just now. But Regan, as I said, he's highlighting the importance to Celtic. Is his continued performances, is that going to make it harder for Celtic to sign him permanently?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, because of the small pond that we fish in Scottish football, because there'll be clubs in England and abroad that will say £7 million, but we can match that and pay more for Celtic. I know people would say, well, Celtic have got first buyout, but that only can take you so far. So I think Celtic will be very weary from Postecoglou's side to try and get this deal done as soon as possible. And I think see, one of the things from being at the game was when Jota scored that first goal for Celtic, I would say about 50,000 of the stadium was singing Jota, Jota, sign up. So you can see the Celtic fans are definitely want Jota to be a big part of Ange Postecoglou's team going forward, Glenn.
Yeah, and Regan, just obviously you were at the game, as you said. Do you think there's maybe a bit of frustration, given the dominance Celtic had yesterday, that they didn't maybe put away more of the opportunities, or is it just a case of the 3 points are on the board, move on to Hearts on Thursday night?
Yeah, I think it's disappointing that they didn't score more goals, but then on a different perspective, I think it's very important that, as you say, Glenn, that Celtic just keep ticking off these wins and getting the 3 points because in the title races, that's all that matters, because people won't be saying Celtic played great here. As long as Celtic win, then Ange Postecoglou and most importantly the Celtic supporters will be very, very happy, because what they want is for Celtic to be playing well and for the possibility for Celtic to go top of the table when they play Rangers on January 2nd.
Yeah, well, certainly Celtic fans will have been leaving Parkhead at full time very happy, but those that travelled from the northeast, Dave, will have been left very unhappy, as it's 3 straight defeats for Stephen Glass's men. And do you think the pressure is growing going into this midweek round of fixtures on Stephen Glass, Dave?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I've got to oblige and acknowledge that I was a big Stephen Glass, not a big Stephen Glass fan as such, but I was willing to give Stephen Glass time. And yeah, there's been a predicament of results. I think the results against the Edinburgh sides helped massively, just in terms of alleviating any sort of pressure that was coming from the Red Army. And I always felt that he was deserved time. I always was one of those that were putting him under pressure. I was balancing the books out with regards to this, but I also think that this is a big week coming up for Aberdeen, or this 3-game window is big within itself. Because you've got Livingston this Wednesday, you've got St Mirren on Saturday, and you've got St Johnstone away from home. You're playing 3 sides there that Livingston can pick up a result here and there, but they are struggling. St Mirren, they're hot and cold at the moment. Same as St Johnstone. Yeah. Great opportunity to get 9 points here, Glenn, and it's a big 3-game window coming up for Aberdeen.
Yeah, big 3-game window coming up, but the injuries are mounting up. Dylan McGee went off with what looked to be a calf injury. Scott Brown, conveniently for the second game against Celtic this season, went off with cramp. Maybe conspiracy theories will want to have their own opinion. And there's some questions of doubt. I'm not too sure. I haven't been able to find if it's accurate or not that Ross McCrory's booking, I was led to believe, would have seen him suspended for Wednesday's game, but Red TV were saying that that's not to be the case. But still, from an Aberdeen point of view, when they can't get a settled defence, that must be cause for concern, because yes, the second Celtic goal was slightly fortunate, but the first goal for me was avoidable, as that was where the goal was coming from. Jota having the freedom of Celtic Park really down that left side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that was the same with last weekend at Dundee United, where the corner came in from McMahon, and there's no Aberdeen players picking up in the box. Harks bang, see you later. Freedom of the City of Discovery, and the freedom of Tardis Street. So it's the same old misfortunes that are happening defensively for Aberdeen, and there needs to be a solution solved very soon.
Yeah, very soon, because the pressure will mount. It's some important games, and as I said, Wednesday's game is against Livingston, who find themselves just 2 points behind Aberdeen, and in that position after a 3-1 home defeat to Rangers. A pretty much comprehensive first league win for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Don't you think, Regan?
Yeah, I thought Rangers played really well in the first 15 minutes, and I thought the goal from Joe Aribo was something special. And I thought after Rangers got their 2-goal lead, then they would go on to score more goals. But it was great spirit from Livingston. It was a shot from James Forrest's little brother, and then Bruce Anderson scored from the rebound. And Livingston had a chance from Alan Forrest as well, which should have made it 2-2, but there was a great save from McGregor once again, Glenn.
Yeah, once again, as Regan touched on there, Dave, the quality from Joe Aribo for the second goal, but I think the first goal as well, the ball over the top and finish from Scott Arfield. David, Rangers once again just showing their prowess up top in this game.
Yeah, first and foremost, I think Joe Aribo was fantastic yesterday. I think the new manager bounce has brought a new lease of life on to like Ryan Kent and Joe Aribo, because I mean, Kent isn't doing the trickery as he did under Gerrard. I think Roy Mackay's had a wee word in his log with regards to that. And I think with regards to Joe Aribo, I thought he was fantastic yesterday. Joe Aribo's been a player accustomed to usually sitting back and being deep and winning the loose balls that normally come his way. But what you're finding from Aribo, and yesterday showed that, is he's having an instinct to move forward, get into dangerous areas, and that goal yesterday was something special. Past Stryek, who couldn't really do much, to be honest, and it was a pivotal part in terms of Rangers winning that game yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. But for all the positives and new manager bounce, as you say, Dave, there's maybe still some defensive frailties. Bruce Anderson getting on the score sheet, Connor Goldson not covering himself in glory again, and from a Rangers perspective. And then, as you said, Regan, Alan McGregor pulling out a wonderful save to deny Alan Forrest. Will there be concern, Regan, amongst Rangers fans about how easily Livingston did score in that game yesterday?
Glenn, I think there will be, because that could have easily been 2-2, and that could have turned the game on his head. What I did find interesting was that I thought as soon as Livingston got back in the game, I thought they opened themselves up a little bit for maybe a chance for Livingston to go into the game, which we didn't really see under Gerrard. But like Dave said, I think Joe Aribo could be the next man that clubs down south really try and exploit, because he's been playing great for the past couple of games.
So maybe clubs like Aston Villa, maybe. But I suppose given the upturn, you touched on there, Dave, Ryan Kent, maybe shown a bit more intent in recent weeks. Do you think some of these players are maybe playing with a view to the January transfer window just around the corner?
Possibly, and I think that's why. I think they wanted to create an impression upon the new manager, but also you made a point last Monday's show, if I'm not mistaken, about the pistols and between the foe and the player.
Yeah.
And I would thoroughly agree with what you said in that precise moment in time, because when you look at that, it was like having a supply teacher in place, right? And you're seeing Rangers creating a fine tune again. But what I did see from Rangers moving forward just today is you're seeing an intensity about their play that I don't think you've seen under Gerrard. I'll be brutally honest with the both of you, and it's an interesting point when I say that if that had been a Gerrard type of team yesterday, it'd have been a laid back, it'd have been a Labour midfield in particular, and then the passes they play in the channels such as finding Kent and finding Scott Wright, just to give you a prime example, would have been slow but sweet. Whilst with with Giovanni Brancost, it's bang, 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 go. So there's differences there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You could see there was a bit more intensity in the play from Rangers yesterday. And I suppose that's exactly what Van Bronckhorst will have been looking for. Now, Dave touched on the poor form Livingston find themselves in. Regan, how much of a concern will it be to Livingston fans that for a team that's been renowned for being good on plastic, they're struggling at home this season?
Yeah, I think it's just a case of the squad is not strong enough, Glenn. Because if you look on past seasons, they've had players like Dykes, Stephen Lawless, and I don't think they've got that this season. I think they've got a decent squad, but I don't think they've got a very good squad. I think that's just probably not the best from David Martindale's team. But like you said, that plastic surface is a big leveler. But from watching it yesterday, I do understand from Sky's point of view why we've not got a bigger TV deal, because if you're watching football on that surface, it's not good to watch. I mean, I know this sounds bad from a Scottish football point of view, but I don't think it's a great on the eye if people want to view it.
No, it's a fair point, and I suppose, Dave, this will be the game coming up on Wednesday for Livingston. We touched on there. They travel north to Pittodrie, four unbeaten away from home. Maybe the right opponents to look to bounce back from that defeat yesterday.
Yeah, I also think from a brutal point of view, I think Bruce Anderson might wind up a few Aberdeen fans on Wednesday, because we've seen it in the Tony Macaroni Arena in the reverse fixture at the start of the season, how Bruce Anderson scores the goal, and then goes to the Red Army, that side that I'm pointing to, and starts winding them up, right?
Yeah.
And this will be a big game for Anderson on Wednesday because, I mean, by all accounts, the terms and conditions in which he left the Tottenham wasn't exactly greatly received by him. So it'll be an interesting game from his point of view on Wednesday. But also, it's a great opportunity for Livingston to go and bounce back as well because, I mean, they'll look at this game and say it's a winnable game. And, I mean, Livingston do have a tricky run of games coming up. They've got Aberdeen on Wednesday, the Rangers yesterday, obviously. They've got Dundee and Tardis coming up as well. So they've got a lot of tricky games in there, and they'll need to pick up wins as soon as possible because, I mean, Dundee are winning games, Ross County are winning games. There's actually an informed table for three teams at the bottom end of the table, which is very interesting considering when you're at Christmas time and a lot of twists and turns can happen before Santa comes to town.
Yeah, I'm only laughing because you're reading off the teams that are picking up form, and as an Aberdeen fan, it's getting more and more concerning as the weeks go by. But one of the teams you mentioned there, Dave, as being in form, are Dundee. I think maybe one of the surprise results of the weekend in the Scottish Premiership, a 3-0 win for the Dens Park faithful. You obviously cover the Dundee teams quite a lot, Dave. Were you surprised to see that scoreline coming in?
Yeah, because I wasn't there, so that's why Dundee won by 3-0. They just decided to turn up in the day. I didn't go to Dens Park, so well done to Jason Pake and Dundee for that. And Jason Pake must have very much been in his laptop on Friday because he was at the press conference on Friday, so he must have been very much doing his homework in Motherwell, and boy, he did. Great performance from Dundee. Motherwell really threatened in the game. I was doing some research on the game last night, and Motherwell really threatened in front of goal. I mean, Adam Wexton's in the Dundee goal had 2 saves to make, and the other 2 opportunities went wide of the posts, which just goes to show you how poor Motherwell were, but also how good Dundee were. Their midfield play was really good. Charlie Adam and Max Anderson doing very well. I read in the stats that Lee Ashcroft, it was a battle all game. He won every aerial duel, but he lost one duel across the whole game. That was in the 42 minutes, I think it was, he was on, which just goes to show you how good he was. And Ryan Sweeney also had a good game, but one problem from Dundee's point of view that they need to be wary about in the long term is he's in 5 bookings, and that's been 5 straight bookings. So it's not like it's just happened here, there, and everywhere. It's been a sequence of events that have occurred to him pick up 5 bookings in a row. So the worry is that one more will lead to a suspension, which means with Ashcroft coming off injured, because he started the game, beg your pardon, and instead of what I said there, he started the game and obviously had been injured for Wednesday's game. That is the worry for Dundee moving forward. As much as it was a good win, and I hate to be a spell sport here, if Sweeney's suspended moving forward and Ashcroft's picking up injuries, they've only got Liam Fontaine, really, to be honest with you. They can go in and pick up the pieces at the back. But moving forward, a very good performance from Dundee. Danny Mullen doing very well. He spoke to the press after the game on Saturday and said that he thinks he's the best striker at Dundee at this precise moment in time. You can't argue with that, to be honest with you, because he scored against Celtic, scored at the weekend. Wade Griffiths is it bang on form. I was doing some stats, actually. You'll be intrigued to know that Wade Griffiths didn't even have a touch in the box on Saturday, and that was in the half an hour that he was on the park. And Jason Cummings, in my honest opinion, isn't getting the game time he deserves. So I can understand why Mullen is saying what he's saying. And very good performance, 3-0 Dundee.
Yep. I'm going to come back to Dundee in a minute and get more of your wonderful insight, Dave. But Regan, Motherwell, I saw someone say on Twitter that they are maybe the Jekyll and Hyde of the Scottish Premiership. Dismantled by Rangers 6-1, then go away to Aberdeen and dispatch them 2-0 and see off Hearts 2-0 in a very professional job at Fir Park, and then just don't turn up at Dens Park and lose 3-0. Graham Alexander must be thinking, what's going on? Where's that consistency? I
mean, Glenn, I tend to agree with that, Jekyll and Hyde, because 1 week they're brilliant, the next week they're not very good. I think they're a good team to watch. They've got some good players, such as Tony Watt. But like Graham Alexander said, they've just beat the form team and Robin Nielsen's team last week. Then they beat Stephen Glass's team at home as well. So they're a credible team, but I don't think they'll be up there for the simple reason that they're not. They can pick up results on a consistent basis. Because if you look at someone take for example like Dundee United.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Dundee United are not playing great every single week, they're still picking up a point here and there, and then they're winning. So if you can pick up more points than you lose, then you're still going to be up there. But in terms of Motherwell, I think it just shows how open the Scottish Premiership is going to be this year, and it's great for the game because no one will fancy their chances playing Motherwell at Fuller Park or up at Aberdeen or at Tynecastle as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you mentioned Tony Watt, Regan, because he was in the press today saying that, you know, it's impossible for Motherwell to be losing in that manner to Dundee. It's actually the second defeat Motherwell have had at Dens Park. And it you know, it was just a few months ago that, you know, there was calls around Tony Watt being called up to the Scotland squad. Is it important for Motherwell that Tony Watt actually rediscovers his goal-scoring form?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. I don't know if it's a case of the pressure's maybe getting to him because he's getting the media attention, or it's a case of Motherwell are so up and down that you can't really judge them. But as they say, Glenn, a striker's only as good as the service that he's getting. And in terms of Motherwell, I don't really think he's been getting much service the last couple of games. So I think you can't really judge him too much. But what we will see under Graham Alexander is they've done very well. And I know at the start of the season they've had some disappointing results in the Premier Sports Cup. But I think the overall Motherwell have been very, very good. I don't think the fans will be panicking. But in terms of Dundee, I just want to go back to that for a second. I think James McPake will be very, very interested in hoping that Dundee can back this result up because there's no point beating Dundee and putting a good result in and then getting beat against on Wednesday, and then all that hard work from getting the 3 points basically is not very good because they put all that hard work in and then they fail to get the 3 points on Wednesday. I think it's important for them to back it up so they can stay away from Ross County, possibly Aberdeen, and possibly David Martindale's team as well.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good point, Regan. It was a point I was going to reference later on. But, you know, we were speaking of important players, Dave. You mentioned Danny Mullen. The player that I'd picked out to discuss was actually Luke McCowan. You know, he really impressed in the game against Aberdeen for me. And, you know, he finds himself on the score sheet again. For a young midfielder, I think he's a midfielder or a winger, you know, he's maybe going to start attracting teams if he keeps up that level of performance for Dundee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's a player that goes under the radar a little bit. We also Glenn. I mean, he's a player that is very tricky in the ball. Maybe because he had a few poor performances at the start of the season, maybe why he's maybe get put under the radar a little bit. But no, he had a fantastic performance against Aberdeen. He did really well against St Johnstone, McDermott Park, I remember, and then another good performance on Saturday. And I'm actually just noticing here that it's the first time, I might be wrong here, I think it's the first time Dundee have scored 3 goals in a league match at Dens Park since 3 years ago. Dundee fans that want to know the exact stats for that, it was Kenny Miller that notched a hat-trick when Dundee beat Hamilton 4-0. So that just goes to show you the history books and how poor Dundee have been the last few years. And Dundee are slowly but surely on the up again. And that's one thing from an Aberdeen persuasion that Aberdeen need to be vigilant about for Wednesday going is Dundee are third in the form table and Livingston are fourth. And I'll apologise to any Livingston fans that are listening in because I didn't realise how well Livingston have done in the last few games. They've actually won 3 and lost 3 of the last 6 games, so they have done very well, and it's going to be a tricky game for Aberdeen on Wednesday. Also, from a Luke McCowan's point of view, I have a fantastic performance, and it'll be important for Jason Payne to go and keep him fit now. And I think the 3-week window has done Dundee the world of good, and it'll do Luke McCowan the world of good as well. It's an opportunity for Luke McCowan to go and seize his opportunity, and they'll be the same on Wednesday now because he's up against the St Johnstone side that are organised, but they can't be exposed, and that exploitation was very much seen at the weekend when Hibs obviously beat St Johnstone. So there's loads of opportunities for McCowan to further his stint at Dundee and keep the fine form that he's producing at Dens Park.
Yeah, and Greco P there in the comments on YouTube confirming that he is a winger. So as always, we do appreciate the support that you guys show to the show on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching and interacting. giving us comments, likes, and subscribing if you're new to the channel. And Dave, you mentioned there about teams that benefited from the 3-week break, because they weren't involved due to the Premier Sports Cup weekend. And Regan, one of those teams that I think's benefited from an almost extended break has been Ross County. We saw them beat Hibs in midweek, and they came back and got a battling point against Dundee United at the weekend to draw 1-1. A really good result for Mulky Mackay's men.
Glenn, I think it's a great result, and I'm going to stick my neck on the line and say I don't think Ross County will be relegated this season. I've watched them the past 2 games, and I just feel that Malky Mackay's got a really good squad there. I really like Joseph. Is it Humble? I think he's absolutely great. I wouldn't be surprised if someone tries to buy him, but I just think they've got a really good blend there, and Malky Mackay is trying to play a great brand of football, and I know people had their doubts about Malky Mackay, but I think he's shown that he's a very astute manager, and I think teams like David Martindale's team and Stephen Glass will be a little bit worried of the form of Malky Mackay's team, because they're playing some good stuff, and they've beat a very good Jack Ross's side, and they've drew with a team that's getting a lot of plaudits and Dundee United as well. So that's not to be sniffed at, Glenn.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and they're picking up momentum at the right sort of time with this busy run of fixtures that we've got coming. But Dave, from a Dundee United point of view, I know you spoke to Tam Courts today, and you gave him a wee surprise that the game tomorrow night is live on Sky Sports, much to his making him aware that he needs to get his comb over in perfect order. But from Dundee United's point of view, that's got to be 2 points dropped at the weekend, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm just going to start by saying I'm going to make a point that Regan made as well, and top it off by saying that I think Ross County did have the nucleus of a good team, but they maybe didn't show it because at the start of the season they had a COVID outbreak, and they also forgot to bring in players. And I think that was to a misdemeanor. I think because of the 2 things, I think that's why you've seen it as a disappointment results. I'll be honest, and I hate to say this, I'll be honest by saying I think the Batodre draw was a springboard for them in a way, because you look at that beforehand and go, Ross County were struggling big time. They could beat 3-0 Easter Road and looked to be just behind it nothing. But boy, have they improved big time. And December's a massive month for Ross County Football Club now. So that's my Ross County debate over and done with. Dundee United, massive disappointment from obviously drawing that game at the weekend, considering Joseph Humble equalised in injury time for Ross County, and it felt like two points dropped, or indeed a defeat from Tam Courts' side. And there's massive disappointment, especially because they've won a lot of games 1-0 or won a lot of games through tight margins this season. So there is a disappointment there from Tam Courts' side. But then I think the good thing from Dundee United's point of view is they've obviously got that game against Motherwell tomorrow where they can go and respond in the correct fashion. And I hate ranting, gents, but I think I have a wee ranting here by saying that I think if I'm telling Tam Courts that there's a game on Sky Sports tomorrow night, I think that just tells you that this game is lowly marketed, and a lot of people don't give Scottish people the respect it deserves. I mean, it's 2 not the old firm teams. Motherwell against Dundee United is the perfect way to try and raise our game, try and upsurge the state of Scottish football. It's 2 teams that are doing very well so far this season. Yet Tam Courts didn't know the game was live on Sky, and Sky Sports have done very little advertising in the lead up to tomorrow night's game. So I think disappointed from their point of view. But Tam Courts' priority, first and foremost, will be getting 3 points at Fir Park. And he made the point today that if he gets the 3 points, it would set him up to 26 or 28 points. So it would be a good marker for Dundee United at the 16-game mark in the season.
Yeah, I actually didn't appreciate that the game was on Sky Sports until I saw your clip on Twitter today either. So if I hadn't seen you posting about it, I would have been none the wiser either, Dave. And I think it kind of highlights the point that you've exactly made, that the game is poorly marketed. And I think the game again, the Celtic Hearts game on Thursday is also live, and Hibs Rangers is live on Wednesday. So because Amazon have got the Premiership midweek this week, Sky have picked up 3 Scottish Premiership games. And Dave, you're spot on. You've seen very little to no advertising of what is 3 big games from different perspectives. The kind of, maybe if you want to look at it, battle for 3rd and 4th place between Dundee United and Motherwell tomorrow. Hibs looking to bounce back from the weekend's disappointment at home to Rangers, and then Celtic Hearts is, you could argue, still the battle for 2nd spot right now. Games that should be marketed a lot better and currently aren't being at all. But onto the game that we're currently speaking about, Ross County 1, Dundee United 1. Again, in the comments, Regan, Greco P asks, is Ross County's upturn in form due in part to dropping Ross Laidlaw? Maynard Brewer's come in and pulled off some excellent saves, and has he been a key part in Ross County's upturn in results, do you think?
I think he's been great, but I wouldn't say that's a big reason. I watched Ross County in the flesh against Motherwell. I went to that game. I thought they played Motherwell off the park that day, and Motherwell just got 2 lucky breaks. So I think it's been coming in the last few weeks. And also, Dave will know that they went up to Dundee as well and got a big result as well. So they've showed great signs that they're a good team, and I think Malcolm Mackay's just proven what a good manager he is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Dave, do you think Dundee United's misery was probably compounded by the fact that they conceded with Ross County being down to 10 men? And, Regan's identified Joseph Hungbo as being a key player, but I think Harry Clark, who found himself sent off at the weekend, has been equally as pivotal. And I think a real coup managing to get him in from Arsenal.
Yeah, I read an article in the Press and Journal from Peter Mackay today, and he was mentioning Jack Baldwin and Harry Clark having a good game, and they have the possibility to have a really good partnership at the back, and if they can get that partnership spot on, and not a lot of teams will score a lot of goals past Ross County. I mean, Ross County were found out at the start of the season by conceding goals. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think Celtic scored a good few against them, and so did Hibs, obviously. So that was kind of misdemeanors in the early part of the season, but I think now you're getting a good partnership between Baldwin and Clark. And I spoke to a guy I know that's a Sunderland fan from Northern Ireland, and he was telling me that Baldwin's a ball-winning defender and nothing else. But I think you can kind of acknowledge that in a way, because I mean, you look at the ball-winning defender and say, at least he is a ball-winning defender rather than one of those that just likes to bomb on forward. It's the old school way of doing things, and I think that's got to be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So a big point for Ross County and 2 drop for Dundee United. Next game we're going to look at from the weekend is Heart of Midlothian 2, St Mirren 0. Hearts returning to winning ways after the previous week's disappointment at Fir Park. Another thumping display at Tynecastle, Regan. GMS and Stephen Kingsley probably putting a contender for goal of the month, if not season, with that spectacular free kick to round off an impressive victory.
Glenn, it was a fantastic goal, and I think it's a very important win for Robin Nielsen's side, because they've not been doing too well in the past few weeks. But like you say, I'm hoping that they can stay up there for the majority of the season, because it's only good for Scottish football, and it's something for us to talk about on the state of Scottish football. I think it was a great goal, and it's definitely a goal of the season contender, like you say.
Yeah, no, superb. And Dave, from a Hearts point of view, another fine win at home, but Regan's saying, we'd love to see them up there for, the growth of Scottish football, the competitiveness of the league. Hearts fans must be thinking, if only we could get our away form sorted, we could maybe have a better chance of staying up there.
I think this is, make or break isn't the right terminology here to use, but I do think it's a massive fortnight coming up for Hearts, because they've got Celtic on Thursday, they've got Rangers a week on Sunday. Yep. So 2 massive games there already. They'll have another game on they've obviously away on Sunday, which isn't easy. So I say this is a massive fortnight in terms of Hearts this season and how it could unfold. I'd love to see Hearts getting a I'd love to see Hearts getting minimum 6 points. Is it possible? Absolutely. No, the bookies will suggest otherwise, but I look at this Hearts side and say they have the potential to get their season back on track. I think they did that on Saturday by beating St Mirren. It was a disappointment outcome at Fir Park the previous weekend, but also Hearts starting the season well. And they start the season well by being consistent, and they need to continue that moving forward, because I mean they did have a pop in results, including get beat with Tawdry and obviously that Fir Park result, and they also drew with Dundee, which was a major disappointment. So from Hearts' point of view, they need to start picking up more wins and providing their own competition as they did in the early part of the season.
Yeah, and I suppose it gives them good momentum going into the game on Thursday night, Regan. And like we touched on there, we're not seeing the game really marketed very well, but what is going to be a very big game for both Celtic and Hearts?
I'm going to make a statement, Glenn, and I think this is the best Hearts equipped side to go to Celtic Park and maybe take something, because the squad looks very, very good, and I think this is a side that can go there and attack Celtic, because you look at the squad they've got Mackay Stephen, Josh Giannelli, John Suter, Craig Gordon in goal as well. So I think they've got a great squad there to possibly go to Celtic Park and maybe even sneak off 3 points.
Yeah, no, 100%, and it's good for Robbie Nielsen, because as me and Struan were discussing on last week's show, some Hearts fans were, a bit upset with the manner of performance and Robbie Nielsen in particular. So kind of answered his critics this weekend. Do you agree on that, Regan?
I definitely agree, because I remember last season when Hearts got beat by Brora Rangers, I think it was, and they were wanting Robbie Nielsen out. So I think he's just proven that, especially when he went to Ibrox 2 weeks ago, he's proven his doubters that he can go to places like Ibrox and get a point. And I think it just shows how far they've come from being top of the Championship to third in the Premiership, when people are talking about them being possibly top 2 in the Premiership. So I think Hearts fans need to be realistic in terms of judging the manager, because I think he's doing a very, very good job, to be honest, Glenn.
Yeah, he is indeed. And another manager that has impressed continuously is Jim Goodwin, Dave. And he must be a bit disappointed with the result, and obviously compounded by the sending off of Joe Shaughnessy, who will miss the midweek game for them. Probably a disappointing day at the office for the Buddies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they had chances, and Craig Gordon once again pulling off from some very good saves, but first at minutes been a worrying picture recently. I mean, the form book doesn't suggest that there's any positivity within that club at the moment. I mean, internally they will get away from the trouble and the predicament that they're in, but where does the win come from is the $1 million question. We've made a point, me, you, and indeed Regan, we made a point in a Friday night show a few weeks back. It was after St Mirren drew Motherwell, in fact, that they maybe are reliant on Jimmy McGrath. They maybe also reliant on other attackers, and maybe the attackers that are on the field maybe aren't pulling their weight or showing that they are capable of providing the service that Jimmy McGrath has provided to that club. So a lot of questions to provide, and a lot of thinking for Jim Goodwin to do from now until Wednesday. Have they got Ross County on Wednesday?
Yeah, it's Ross County at home before coming out.
That's a big game for both clubs. That's a big game for both clubs that Wednesday.
Yeah, huge game. But how you touch on there, obviously Jamie McGrath has been kind of the key player for St Mirren. How worrying will it be for St Mirren fans and Jim Goodwin in particular that they are struggling, especially up top, to score goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I watched St Mirren against St Johnstone. Boring 0-0 draw, may I add, and there was very little to suggest that St Mirren had an instinct in front of the goal. I mean, you'd Curtis Main had a few chances, but we all know Curtis Main is not going to go and score 15, 20 goals a season. So, and I said that in a very funny way because it's the honest truth. So, yeah, that has been the problem for St Mirren. They've got some really good players in terms of the midfield area, and they're really good and very well organised defensively, but the problem maybe is lacking a bit of instinct up front. I mean, I looked at Brophy and he created a wee bit of an impact at Kilmarnock and thought he could maybe do this against St Mirren, but it hasn't really worked out for Brophy, if I'm going to be brutally honest. And that's the thing for St Mirren. Take Jimmy McGrath out the picture. Would St Mirren be challenging for the top six? Probably not. So a lot of thinking and a lot of questions for Jim Goodwin to answer.
Yeah, no, I kind of echo those thoughts on Eamon Brophy. I was really surprised that he hasn't kind of hit the goal trail for St Mirren. And yeah, big couple of weeks for St Mirren coming up, important fixtures, Wednesday, Saturday, and then also going into January and obviously the transfer window being open, and will they be able to keep Jamie McGrath? I'm sure it's going to be a topic that's covered widely on State of Scottish Football. To round off our Scottish Premiership review of the weekend's action, takes us to Perth, where the home side fell 2-1 to Hibs, and Regan, this was a much needed 3 points, not just for Hibs, but for very much under pressure Jack Ross.
Glenn, it definitely was, because I spoke on the show on Thursday night with Robbie, and I said that even though Jack Ross got his side to a final, I think he would still be under some pressure from the Edinburgh side supporters. So I think it was a very important one for him, and I think the sending off from St Johnstone changed the game for them, because up to that point St Johnstone were 1-0 up and playing well. So yeah, I think sometimes it's the changing luck that you need in football. And someone that I spoke about on Thursday with Robbie actually was Scott Allen, and I was very impressed when he came on. He thought he'd done really well. So in terms of that, it was a good substitution from Jack Ross as well. But I just want to ask you two, I think the partnership of Nisbet and Doidge will be important for Hibs in the next couple of games, because I think it's important now that Doidge is back from his injury, that Jack Ross has now got a bit of a headache whether to play two up front now, Dave and Glenn.
Yeah, well,
Sorry,
I noticed that Jack Ross had said in the papers today that the way Pep talked with Kevin Nisbet, and I think it kind of worked, because Nisbet was really good on Saturday, and the big question was raised by Craig Leach in the last week's show that in weeks gone by, that Nisbet kind of doesn't feel a pressure when the players such as Doidge or Boyle are unavailable. But on Saturday, I think he's seen a different Kevin Nisbet, and also Doidge coming back has been a massive help for him. James Scott has been a failure so far. There's no other way to put it. I don't know it sounds brutal, but I'm just telling you the truth here. I think Hibs have some good attacking options, but it's been about finding the correct balance. And to a degree, I think Jack Ross has started to find it a little bit now. He will need to fit Martin Boyle back into this system. Doidge exactly the same, but that's the headaches you get with being a manager. You need to find out the correct chemistry and find out the correct results. Stephen Glass in a very similar position. I can disagree with him if you want, Glenn, but I don't think he knows his best team. And I understand there's injuries with that as well, but I also look at this as well by saying that he doesn't know his best team or doesn't have his best team at this precise moment in time, which is a complete frustration.
I think on Stephen Glass, I think he doesn't have his best team. We've only managed to name the same team in consecutive games once this season, but obviously we're speaking about Hibs just now, and it's obviously a dilemma that Jack Ross is going to have. But Christian Doidge does have a disciplinary hearing on Thursday, I believe it is, the 2nd of December, in response to his red card from the game against Ross County. But Regan, you mentioned Scott Allen obviously coming on and grabbing the assist for the winner, but another player who I think for maybe Hibs is more important was Kevin Nisbet, obviously finding himself on the score sheet but having 2 goals disallowed. A player has maybe found himself out of form recently, and just thinking ahead to March, Scotland have got some big games coming up in March. Hopefully games being plural. How important is it for Scotland and Hibs and Kevin Nisbet that he keeps this up as goal scoring form?
I think it is important. I watched him on Tuesday night and he missed 2 big chances to score 2 goals for them against Ross County, and I thought that was going to play on his mind, because I think it always does in a striker. But I think it was important for him in terms of getting that scoring habit back again, Glenn, because he could probably get in a rut of not scoring goals. So from his point of view, I think even though this game's important for Rangers on Wednesday, I think it's important for Jack Ross's side as well, because like I said with Dundee earlier, Jack Ross will want to back this up and not just be a one-trick pony.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, obviously they got the win at Hampden over Rangers the other week, so it'll be interesting to see how they play the game on Wednesday and if they can get another victory over the Ibrox side. But there was obviously two teams in this game, Dave. St Johnstone on the back of Hampden heartache. Another disappointing result for Callum Davidson's men. And we speak about managers under pressure. I don't think Callum Davidson is under intense pressure yet, but there's maybe some groans and moans coming from the Perth faithful.
Yeah, and I think Dundee is a big game for St Johnstone Wednesday night, but just to try and reignite their season a little bit, because Saturday was a disappointment. So was the Celtic semi-final for a team of St Johnstone's standard that Callum Davidson has very much implemented through the double cup winning success of last season. He'll be wanting more, and indeed the fans will be wanting more, because they'll have an expectation upon this football club now, and the expectation will be night and day to what it was when COVID started, which just shows where St Johnstone are at right now. I think a defeat to Dundee on Wednesday will leave some St Johnstone fans bewildered. They'll ask questions, understandably, and also for Callum Davidson, he'll be looking for a win wherever, because St Johnstone have a really good record over Dundee, and but that doesn't count for nothing on Wednesday night. You're up against a Dundee side that go by the form book are resurgent, and that when I mentioned a resurgent Dundee, that form book takes into account that Ross County game. Take that Ross County scoreline at the leading here. Our Dundee side have done very well in the last month and a half, which goes to show you how difficult a game it will be for St Johnstone. It would be a massive win if they can go pick up that victory, and it would be a springboard for the rest of the season if they do go win at Dens.
Yeah, and Regan, Dave makes an excellent point. They're going to Dens Park and an informed Dundee, but at the weekend they also face a Ross County side who are also equally resurgent. But St Johnstone have been struggling at home recently, so not only is Wednesday's game vital, but the weekend coming up is also vital. And probably you wouldn't have thought this, but maybe the two teams St Johnstone would have least liked to face.
I tend to agree with that, but I don't know it. But Dave, is St Johnstone Dundee a derby game, David?
I think St Johnstone fans view it as a derby, but Dundee fans won't.
Yeah, because I think that's important. But I just want to go back on Dave's point he made earlier about Davidson being under a bit of pressure. I tend to disagree with that in terms of St Johnstone points above their weight last year, and now they're probably back down to the level where they're supposed to be. Would you not agree with that, Glenn?
It's a fair comment, but I suppose it's the age-old football cliche if you're a victim of your own success.
I just mean in terms of Davidson, because what's the point of sacking him? Because you lost the two best players that took him to the cup glory last year, and in terms of the success in the Premier Sports Cup, he's got beat by a Celtic side that's got great players in it, such as Jota and Kyogo. So I don't think you can be very hard on him. And also the fact that they've not had the best of luck with injuries as well. So I think in terms of St Johnstone, they've just been looking to get back to winning ways as possible. But I don't think they'll be pushing the panic button, because if you look at it from this point of view, I think Davidson will be getting interest to move on before St Johnstone sack him, because I think in terms of last season, I think like you say, he's probably a victim of his own success, but I think it'll be a case of St Johnstone will be trying to hold on to him rather than St Johnstone wanting to sack him, because a manager like that is done very well, so you can't be hard on him.
No, some good points you make there, Regan. And I think for an outsider looking in, is also St Johnstone's lack of goals this season have maybe been a concern for them, and it'll be interesting to see how they go in the next couple of weeks. And as we approach the end of Monday night's episode, we've reached the end of this kind of Scottish Premiership review, and it's not been a rapid run through because unlike in the comments, Dave's not going to play us out on the grand piano or show us his dolphins in his pool. Honestly, there's been some cracking comments about Dave's background.
I did have Piano Man by Billy Joel lined up, but no, we're going to leave it at that.
No, I think we'll save you from that. But there was, of course, the Scottish Cup in action over the weekend, and we saw the Scottish Cup draws coming up live on the BBC Scotland channel after the Brecon-Darvel game this evening. And Regan, we saw some Scottish Cup upsets. What was the biggest upset for you this weekend?
For me, it was Auchinleck Talbot beating Scott Taylor's Hub, the Harold and Ackies, because people forget that they were a Premiership side under Brian Rice last year. So it just shows that Auchinleck Talbot can go and beat Hamilton. But another good result for me was Clydebank as well. I thought that was a great result because they just showed that the junior football can be a real. I know people say it's a bit rough and ready and you don't know what to expect, but I think it just shows the standard of the lower reaches of Scottish football and you just look at a side like Darvel tonight. I know they've put a bit of money into it, but it's credit to Mick, who's a very good guy and I've managed to speak to before, but it's credit to him for putting his money where his mouth is and for Darvel for backing him because he's done a very good job and hopefully they can go and show what they're made of tonight.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game tonight, and Auchinleck and Clydebank, two excellent results there, and certainly as when the Scottish Cup draw comes about, I'm always one that wants an away tie against a team that we don't often play at or a ground I've never visited. So Talbot and Clydebank are certainly high on my list, although I'm sure in current form Aberdeen are a team high on many lists to face.
The only bad thing is, Glenn, is when you get beat off them. And then people start moaning.
Yeah, but Dave, as a fellow Northeast loon like myself, Banks of D must have surely ranked up there as a cup shot for you, or not maybe.
No, absolutely. And Greco P has just came in and said exactly the same thing. Banks do pull off a great result because they're struggling like one East Fife. And I was surprised with the result, because I thought East Fife would have had a bit of a resurgence after sacking Danny Young and Stevie Frail took a team on Saturday, but East Fife went to go in front, and I actually had a look at the highlights just then. Fraser Hobday, I don't want to be critical here, but he had a kick up the park and the East Fife lad just goes and bungs it into the net. So that was disappointing. And going by the footage, I don't think the Banks team management team were too happy with the goalkeeper in that situation. But Banks' response was very good. Kane Winton got an equaliser. Kane Winton, for those that don't know, he is the son of the chairman, Brian Winton. So there's a family connection there. And I understand that Kane's brother Josh is one of the coaches at Banks as well. So the Winton family certainly are involved in Banks D. So there's definitely a family club involved with that. So Kane Winton obviously scored the equaliser, but he got booked in that game, so he's going to miss the fourth round. And that's a major disappointment for Banks D. And I think Jamie Watt made a good point about that, because Jamie Watt mentioned that it's unfortunate because you'll have teams in round 4, such as your Premiership and your Championship teams, that will come in. They'll be the first game lost. Banks Steve played 4 or 5 games to get here. So it just goes to show you where Banks are at compared to the other teams. And we'd love to see Banks against Aberdeen. If it's at Pittodrie, great. But how would you feel if it's at Spain Park, Glenn?
I just think I was speaking to a Hibs fan last night, and they said that he said he wanted Banks D away. I just have a inkling or a hope that if it is Banks D or a Talbot, they get one of these big Premiership teams at home, they do keep it at their home ground and don't sell out to the nearest big club. And because I did have a feeling that maybe Banks D might think of moving to Pittodrie if they got, say, a Premiership team at home, well, like a Hearts, Hibs, Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, and try and cash in on value.
I think they would go for Cove, considering
Artificial surface,
because it would suit Banks D to a T.
I suppose, though, that will obviously depend whether or not Cove get through. Obviously, they drew 2-2, a game that you were at against Queen of the South, a last-minute winner. Another replay for a North team, Cali having to travel down to Morton. But, still some good teams left in the hat, but also some junior sides, some Lowland League, some Highland League sides. So, really open this Scottish Cup. And I think, Regan, it just shows that the Scottish Cup still retains that magic that the FA Cup doesn't.
I was just going to ask you guys, do you think they should open the pyramid system a bit more so there's more than one team that can go up to try and get to the Scottish League 1 and League 2? Because I think that one place is not very good, as we've seen with Barry Ferguson trying to get is it Celtic Hearts up last season?
Because I think League 2 should have been an automatic relegation, and then it's whoever wins the Lowland League, Highland League playoff goes straight into League 2. That would be my thought.
Yeah, because I mean, you just look at teams like Auchinleck Talbot, they get a better crowd than say Ayr or Hamilton Accies or Morton every single week. They're getting maybe 2,000 fans at their stadium every single week.
Was it not Trinent Juniors? Sorry, was it not Trinent Juniors that last week, 2 weeks ago, whoever they were playing against got 1,500 at their game?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of these, well, certainly Central Belt sides are very much well supported. I know, Dave, you've covered a lot of Highland League in your time, Devon Vale and whatnot. Fraserburgh, Brora, Locos to an extent are probably the bigger supported sides up here, but I don't think the Highland League matches the numbers that you see down in the Lowland League.
Well, I think the Highland League was underwhelming this year in the Scottish. I mean, we're around 3 and there was only Brecon available in the competition. And what I would say, in case anybody thinks I'm doing disrespectful to Highland League here, is I think the Highland League is a really good standard. But also, there's also that challenge that the Highland League is well behind the Lowland League. And I think that was centralised and very much touched upon when Celtic beat Brora comfortably, I may add, which obviously set up Celtic to go into the SPFL. But I think it shows that there was a gulf because, I mean, Celtic were up against a Brora side Boyd by beating Hearts a month or so beforehand, and then Celtic just went to Brora a week before with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, I think it just shows that Scottish football's in a very good place as well, because we've got some good teams that can, on their day, play very, very well.
Yeah, definitely. And even look at, on the Scottish Cup, Socky Juniors, they beat, at the time, top of the league Fraserburgh, which was probably one, for me, bigger shock of the earlier round. And it'll certainly be interesting that, as the season develops, we'll definitely have it covered here on A State of Scottish Football. The pyramid playoff games, for me, as a Scottish football fan, it's games that I love seeing because teams that we don't often cover and teams with a chance of promotion and relegation, seeing new teams come into the league, it's always exciting. And I think that's, for me, the glory that the Scottish Cup has is, as an Aberdeen fan, going to venues that we don't normally get, and that's why I'm not a big fan of a home tie in the Scottish Cup. I'm more of an away fan person.
I mean, Dave, you'll know better than me, but a lot of these junior teams and lower league teams are putting they're putting a lot of money into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Celtic were bankrolled by a guy called Dean McKenzie. Cove were naming the Highland League and then progressed through the pyramid. Terry Corbyn and Keith Moore, who spent a lot of money into that club. Bonnie Legger are going places. They have a 5-year plan, as was suggesting the view in the Terrace, if I'm not mistaken, on Friday night. So there's a lot of ambitious clubs there, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely is, and it'll be interesting to see how certain clubs from the Lowland League, Highland League progress over the next few seasons. Highland League's still the only league that I've never seen a 0-0 in. There's an interesting fact for you all. But thank you very much to Dave and Regan for joining me on this Monday night. It's been excellent to chat all things Scottish Premiership and Scottish Cup. Dave, are you on tomorrow to look ahead to the Dundee United game?
No, I'm back on Thursday, gentlemen. So here's hoping Robbie can Robbie's on tomorrow. Robbie had that.
Yeah, Robbie and Colin will be on the show tomorrow to look ahead to the Dundee United Motherwell game and probably also preview the rest of the midweek card and maybe a little reaction to the Scottish Cup draw in there as well. I'm sure if there's a few tasty ties to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of big games coming up, and just hoping we can get more Mouthwater in action during the week.
Yep, and we will see you all tomorrow.